Today we start our testing sunscreens from Sephora series. Hey guys, welcome back to Sheri Approved. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you're new, welcome. I'm Sheri, a licensed skincare consultant. And if you're already a part of the Sheri Approved family, thank you so much for clicking on today's video. A couple months ago, you guys would have seen in my Sephora haul that I picked up the Sephora 2024 Sun Safety Kit that featured a bunch of sunscreens that you can purchase at Sephora. Now, I picked up that kit because it was a good value kit. You get to try out many formulas to kind of decide which one is going to work best for you. But mainly because I have had people that ask me my thoughts on certain sunscreens from Sephora. But the thing is, I don't buy any of my sunscreens from Sephora. You all know that I'm a skincare junkie. I am a sunscreen junkie as well. I probably have more sunscreens than any other skincare category. I have tried way too many to count by now. But Sephora, like I mentioned, is not my go-to place for purchasing sunscreens for two main reasons. Number one, most of the sunscreens that I purchase are much more affordable. I tend to purchase Asian, Japanese, even European sunscreens. And that leads me to the second reason why I don't really purchase sunscreens from Sephora. And that's because the sunscreens at Sephora need to comply with US regulations. And that means that those sunscreens will have UV filters that are approved by the US FDA. Now, if you are somebody that's in the skincare world or following along on this whole story, you would know that the FDA have not approved new UV filters for a couple decades. There's a lot of pressure on, a lot of people are pushing and asking for it because filters and the development of UV filters have come such a long way. They're filters that play more nicely on the skin, are way less sensitizing and are more comfortable. They're also more stable as well. And those filters are the one that tend to be used in the eastern part of the world, which is where I get most of my sunscreens from. On top of that, a lot of the filters that are approved for use in the US actually irritate my skin. And many years ago, I was using like mineral only sunscreens and really suffering through the whole white cast thing because a lot of the other sunscreens that were available would have caused like irritation, sensitivity, burning, sometimes get itching, usually just negative reactions. So I needed to avoid those, and therefore I would just stick to zinc oxide or titanium dioxide based sunscreens. And of course, because I'm a person with skin of color, that would have led to the whole white cast issue, yada, 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 yada. Now, generally, filters that I tend to have issues with are avobenzone, oxybenzone, octocrylene. Those three generally create most of the issues for me. And I will see them like in a lot of sunscreens. So I really had to get my mind there and say, Sheri, you're doing this to the people. I know that I'm going to suffer a little bit, but I'm also going to tell you that the sunscreens that had those filters in them, I literally applied them to my skin for you to see how it applies, what the finish is like, what the dry down is like. And then I literally washed my face because I couldn't live through it. So I will tell you about my experience with the sunscreens. Today, I have the review for 4 of the sunscreens that were in that Sephora Sun Kit. I hope that I'm going to be able to review all of them for you. So stay tuned because this is definitely going to be a series. And some of you might be wondering, well, Sheri, if they actually create issues to you, why should we even buy them? And that's a very good question. The reason is, everybody's not like me, and there are a lot of people who tolerate those filters very well. So if they don't create any issues to you, there might be something in here that I'm going to talk about that might sound interesting to you, that might be, oh, this might be the sunscreen that might be for you. So yeah, let's just get right into it. In the demos that you will see on my skin, I would have cleansed my skin, I would have applied vitamin C serum, and then I would have gone in with each of the sunscreens that you would see me apply. I also would have been using my handy dandy 1/8 teaspoon to measure. So I do 2 layers of this in order to get my 1/4 teaspoon, which is the approximate amount that is correct for the average adult face. And I will usually apply the sunscreens in 2 layers. I find that gives a more even finish, and you want to make sure that your sunscreen spreads evenly on your skin so that you are better protected. And then it also allows the application to be a little bit easier. You put half on, you let it set for about 30 seconds, and then you put on the next layer, allow that to set, and you're good to go. The first sunscreen, I think, is probably the most affordable sunscreen that you can get at Sephora, and it's not a bad price at all. And this is by the Inkey List. This is their Polyglutamic Acid Dewy Sunscreen SPF 30. And the good thing about it is at the back of this particular sunscreen, they list the filters for you. Now, it is important to know that UV filters are considered to be an actual medicine, and therefore you would see them listed as active ingredients, especially on sunscreen labels in the US. So this one has avobenzone, solizol, octisalate, and octocrylene. So already there are 2 filters in here. When I saw this, I was ready to cry, but I said, no, Sheri, we have to do this. So let me tell you about my experience with this now. Now, first of all, I was absolutely very, very pleasantly surprised by the texture. This is a very watery lotion type texture. The application of this was a breeze. It blended in easy, like so easy. I was like, wow, that was quick. Now, the texture of it, while it is lightweight and it actually doesn't feel heavy on the skin, I could actually feel the sunscreen on my skin after I apply it, after it sets. I could feel like there's something there, but it's still not heavy, if you catch what I'm trying to say. Now, I did expect that there would not be a white cast because you don't generally tend to get a white cast with these particular chemical UV filters. And therefore, this is one that very deep skin tones can actually use and not have to worry about having that white cast. Now, the finish of this, they actually put on here dewy sunscreen, and I have used way more dewy sunscreens. Like, I wouldn't even put this in the dewy sunscreen category because I feel like I know dewy sunscreens. For me, this had a very natural finish, a natural glow on the skin, something that I would absolutely be comfortable with. It wasn't tacky, it wasn't greasy, and that felt really, really comfortable. Now, for me, the stinging started in about a minute into the application. You will also notice that I avoid my eye area when doing these demos and applying these sunscreens because I want to be able to continue with life during the day. And so I really didn't want to have to go through the whole extremely red eyes, running eyes, etc. that would occur if I get this around my eye area. But usually when I do apply sunscreen, I do apply it around my eyes because your eyes also need protection. So I really experienced the stinging feeling on the rest of my face, especially this whole area, the whole cheek area is where I tend to have that experience. I was actually expecting that because I saw what the filters were in this. The issue that I have with this sunscreen is that this is SPF 30. Now, SPF 30 is like the baseline that is recommended by the AAD in terms of the minimum amount of SPF that you should apply. Now, number one, most people are not applying enough product. And if you don't apply enough product, then you're not going to get the labeled SPF. A lot of people are fooling themselves and you are walking around without proper protection. So I would hardly ever reach for SPF 30 product. My personal baseline is SPF 40, 45, and most of my personal SPFs are SPF 50 plus. And that's where I personally feel comfortable. UV in the Caribbean is different, and I want to make sure that my skin is protected. If this sounds like something that you would use, I mean, this is a 50 ml tube, and I think it retails for around $15 US, which is not bad at all. Make sure that you are applying the right amount. This tube will give you 40 applications if you are applying the right amount for the average adult face. I also want to give props to the Inkey List because on their website, they actually tell you about applying the right amount. And that is not something that the majority of sunscreens put in their instructions or anything like that. So I was really, really impressed to see that. Interestingly, they actually identified a key ingredient here on the actual name, the polyglutamic acid. And this is actually a really, really great humectant, and it actually holds 10 times more moisture than hyaluronic acid. So I'm guessing that they are trying to probably zone in or focus into people who want hydration, maybe somebody who has like very dry skin. However, as someone with oily skin, I'm telling you that I actually felt pretty comfortable with the finish and the feel of this on my skin as well. So I feel like once you don't have any issues with those filters, almost any skin type could get away with the sunscreen. And finally, with regards to the smell, and honestly, this just has like a very faint, like the regular kind of beachy sunscreen type of smell, but it's very, very faint. It doesn't bother me at all. And that's like the usual scent that you tend to have with, you know, these types of filters and so on. It's something that I expect. And I think it's something that most of you might expect. Like if you smell it, I don't think it's going to be like off-putting or anything like that. SPF 30, nice dry down, a nice finish on the skin. I can't wear it because it stings my skin like crazy. But if that's something that you're looking for and you're okay with SPF 30, this is probably the best affordable sunscreen you can get at Sephora. The next one is a mineral-based sunscreen, and this one is called the Saint Jane Luxury Sun Ritual Pore Smoothing, again SPF 30. Now this one they say is inspired by flower petals and their resiliency against the sun, heat and environmental stressors. So they focused on including antioxidant rich blooms like desert rose, hibiscus and jasmine extract to provide deep moisture and a flawless sheer finish. When I actually saw that this was a mineral sunscreen, I was like, and it's also non-nano zinc oxide at 10%. I'm like, Sheri, prepare for the white cast. I was actually very surprised when I actually opened it and I saw that this actually has a little bit of a tint. Yeah, look at that. So it has a little bit of a tint, like a light cream color, but I mean, that really wouldn't say much because there are a lot of them like that and it definitely wouldn't blend into my skin. Now there is a strong floral scent here, but I actually enjoy it. It's really, really nice. It's not off-putting to me. I actually find it to be very pleasant, but I have to mention that. So if you know that you're not going to be like a floral person, then this would not be the sunscreen for you. I was actually very pleasantly impressed by this sunscreen. When I think about mineral sunscreens, especially traditional mineral sunscreens, I'm thinking about thick, pasty. I'm expecting to like look real white on my skin. This was not thick. This was not pasty. In fact, this blended so well and so easily. I was like, is this a mineral sunscreen? Literally turn the tube again to check the ingredients. While this really didn't leave a white cast on me, like it may appear like that on camera just immediately after application, but I was like looking at myself in the mirror, and it also could be because of the bright lights. I found that it blended in really good. If you look at my hairline and so on, it blended in so well. However, on deeper skin tones, I think there may be a slight white cast. This is only SPF 30, so not the best protection and not the protection that I would personally select, but I liked the formula of this. This could definitely replace moisturizer for many people, and in fact they also say that this is used as a makeup primer, and I could definitely see that. One of the things that I loved about this is that I could see that it leaves a kind of slight pore blurring effect on the skin, which I really, really liked, especially for the people who want to be able to apply their sunscreen and go. Like, this is a lovely choice. The finish of this is also a very natural finish. I did not find it shiny or greasy or extremely glowy. I was really, again, impressed by the finish. And by the time I got to the sunscreen, I was like, am I missing something here? I could definitely see that these formulas have been improving. Although they may not have access to the newer filters, the finish was really, really nice on the skin. And this one did not irritate me at all because it didn't contain any of those filters that I have issues with. I can absolutely use mineral filters without issue. So I was actually able to use this one, wear this one. I didn't have to wash this one off my skin. And I did actually wear makeup on top of this, and I was actually happy with how it performed. My only issue again would be that this is not necessarily something that I would purchase because it's SPF 30. Plus, the full size of this, the 50 ml tube, is 38. 38 US dollars. So yeah, this definitely has to be a luxury sunscreen for me to pay 38 US dollars for a regular tube. And it's only SPF 30. Next is one that I had gotten a lot of requests about because quite a few people use this, and this is definitely a favorite. And this one is by Paula's Choice. This is their Youth Extending Daily Hydrating Fluid Broad Spectrum SPF 50. So this is one of the very few sunscreens that had like a higher SPF or SPF factor that I would actually be comfortable with, and they actually say on the tube, this one is for normal, oily and combination skin. Now the filters in this one, avobenzone, octinoxate, octisalate, octocrylene, and it actually has titanium dioxide. So this is what we would actually consider to be a hybrid sunscreen because it does contain a blend of chemical and mineral UV filters. Now, out of the 4 sunscreens that I'm talking about in this video, this one is the most liquidy in terms of the texture. However, it actually took longer to blend in than the first 2, which was quite interesting. Now, you could see that it actually looks like it goes into the skin really, really quickly there, but it could be the volume, like the thinness and so on. I really, really enjoy because it does remind me in terms of the texture of a lot of Asian sunscreens. So I could see why a lot of people in the US, like if you could get your hand on this, you're like, yes, this is like a really great sunscreen because the texture is really, really nice and it feels very, very lightweight. This one had no white cast on me at all. Very, very deep skin tones may get a slight white cast because there is a little bit of titanium dioxide in there. So keep that in mind. If you're very deep and you have worn this sunscreen, I'd love you to leave it in the comments below how it looks on your skin. And this one actually claims to have a matte finish, but I actually found it to look more glowy on my skin than the others. Now, mind you, I kept the vitamin C that I used in testing all of these sunscreens the same. So that was like my constant, and the only variable in the test was the sunscreens. But although it was more glowy, it was like a more natural glow finish, still not greasy, still not, too shiny or anything like that. Very, very wearable, very comfortable for somebody like me with oily skin. I could definitely see why it's a favorite in terms of the finish. After I applied it, I was like, oh, I'm not getting any reaction. Is this like some, weird sunscreen where I'm going to get away with this? Is this why so many people love this? And like, lo and behold, as I was thinking that, and I'm like, ooh, the burning started. This one also has the sunscreen scent, but to me it's like the sunscreen scent with a little bit of musk. It's a little bit weird. Yeah, I don't know, with all these perfume testing these days, my nose has gotten even more sensitive. But it is mild, nothing crazy, nothing over the top. You literally have to come like really, really close to smell it. I don't think it's something that's going to be off-putting, and frankly, most people might not even realize that. Interesting is that this has dimethicone, so you might get that type of primer finish, but it also has some other really good soothing ingredients like oat extract, and this one also contains some other antioxidants as well. I can definitely see why this is a favorite of a lot of people. We get an SPF 50, we get in a really good level of protection here. The texture of it is nice. I can see it working for many skin types. If you have no issue with any of those filters, this might be an option. However, the full size of this is a 60 ml tube. That's $39 US. Keep that in mind. And the last one for today's video is by Fenty, and this is the Fenty Skin Hydra Vizr Broad Spectrum Mineral SPF 30 Sunscreen Moisturizer. So this is what the little bottle looks like. So cute, so cute. I found this like to be so nice. Now, I was also very excited to try this one because this one is mineral, so I'm like, okay, great, my skin is going to be okay with this. And this one is SPF 30, but this one is zinc oxide 15.5%. Now keep in mind that the St. Jane is also SPF 30, but this one is zinc oxide 10%. Interesting. Zinc oxide is the main mineral UV filter, but they also have niacinamide in this one, and they also have something called Kalahari melon, which they said is to deliver vitamin and antioxidant packed hydration. Now this has a weird smell to me. I don't know if it's the melon and sunscreen mixed. It's not so pleasant, but again, it's nothing that's off-putting. Applying it, you're really going to smell it. I have to go really, really close to smell it. The other thing is that this one also has a little bit of a tint. I don't know if you could see it there, like the lighting might be too bright, but it's like a light blush color kind of tint. Very, very interesting. Although this wasn't the traditional pasty heavy mineral sunscreen, out of all the sunscreens that I applied today, this one took the longest to blend in, and still it wasn't that bad at all. I was able to blend it in, had to work it in a little bit to my hairline, but it wasn't like those mineral sunscreens that will literally like, get caught in the hairline and you can't blend it or you can't move it. No, it eventually blended in without having to use like a horse and a muscle. The issue with this one for me is that it was glowy, like glowy, greasy, even after 10-15 minutes, because again, I'm not having any stinging and so on with this one. It was comfortable on my face and all of that, so I left it. I'm walking around 10 minutes, I'm looking at myself in the mirror, I'm like, hey, when you gonna calm down? 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I realized this is not calming down, this is not drying down, this is not setting. If I touch my face, it feels very slippy and greasy, like gliding like butter. Literally. And I'm like, no sis, we cannot deal with this. So I am able to wear this one because it's not uncomfortable, meaning it's not stinging my skin, but I absolutely cannot leave the house with this or even like feel comfortable walking around with this without powdering this one down. That was a little bit strange to me because generally when products have zinc oxide as, the UV filter, that actually helps to like give a little bit of a drying effect to the sunscreen. So it actually helps to kind of mattify a little bit. But this one is extremely emollient. And I'm guessing like the formula or the base that they used was really to help, the product to be able to blend into the skin and move on. But it was just way too much. So much so that I actually felt like, oh gosh, this is definitely going to clog my pores or something. And that's not like a thought that I usually have with sunscreens. So weird. Who would this be for? Again, keeping in mind that it's just the basic SPF 30. I would say that if you're somebody who has like very, very, very dry skin and you need a mineral sunscreen, like this might definitely work out for you. If you are combination oily, I definitely don't think that is going to be the best option for you. Now, Fenty has come out with a new range of tinted sunscreens, and maybe that might be better, although I have been seeing a lot of people talking about like how glowy and shiny it is, like it's a little bit too much. If they use the same base and just added tints, I could definitely see that being the case. But I don't like this formula. It's not comfortable on my skin. I don't like the finish on my skin. And just before I go, this one, the full size is 50 ml and it actually costs $40. So again, keep that in mind. Let me know what you think about these, like any of these sound interesting for you. And for those of you who can actually tolerate like avobenzone, oxybenzone, octocrylene, etc., like the older UV filters, have you thought of trying any of these? I'd like to know. I know the Inkey List, for example, is really popular as well because of the price point, you know, but I'd love to hear your comments down below, and stay tuned because I do have a bunch more of sunscreens from Sephora to test and review for you guys. I hope that today's video was helpful. Remember, I do these videos to help you choose the right products, because if you don't have the right products, you have the wrong products. I'll see you guys again soon. Take care. Thanks for watching. Bye.